This particular lesson is all about the difference between the usage of which and the usage of that. They're not interchangeable. Let's take an example to illustrate this. Chairs which have no cushions are uncomfortable to sit on. This is the sentence I want to say. Now, I want to determine whether the usage of the word which over there is correct. For that, the first thing I need to determine is there is a clause there. I need to determine whether it's essential or non-essential. What's the clause that I'm talking about? Which have no cushions. Why is it a clause? It's got the word which is the noun or subject, and it has the action have no cushion. So it is a clause. I want to determine whether this is essential or non-essential. Now the rule is, if it is non-essential, I would put 2 commas on either side. And to check whether it's non-essential, I would remove this clause and check whether I still retain the meaning, if it makes sense. Now, if I remove this which have no cushions, I'm left with chairs are uncomfortable to sit on. Is it the same meaning as the original? Is it conveying the same thing? Am I still talking about all chairs? No, I'm talking about chairs which have no cushions. Now, this is your rule for determining whether something is essential or not. Am I still able to identify which chairs I was talking about? No. The clause which have no cushions is helping me to identify what am I talking about, a particular type of chair. Therefore, this is not the original sentence, it's wrong, and therefore this is not a non-essential clause, it's essential, and because of that I cannot use the word which, I have to use the word that. So this is the distinction between which and that. I have to use that if I'm using an essential clause. So let's make that clear. There will not be any commas, and because commas are used to set off non-essential clauses. So no commas. That can never be used to set off a non-essential clause, and that is used only to set off an essential clause. Essential clauses are essential to the meaning of the sentence. Why are they essential? Because whatever information they are giving actually sets a limit on what we're talking about, and we are able to determine what we're talking about. So chairs, we're not talking about all chairs, we're talking only about chairs without cushions, and those are uncomfortable to sit on. The car which James purchased last week met with an accident. Now, I would like to determine whether this is essential or non-essential. Of course, because I have used which, it is non-essential, but this is how you would go about it. You would, yes, those 2 commas are there. It is non-essential, but you would ask yourself, if I were to remove the commas and this bit, what am I talking about? The car met with an accident. Is there a little confusion here? Which car met with an accident? So this information is helping me identify which is the car I'm talking about, and therefore it is essential information. So that putting those 2 commas and using the word which is wrong. It's an incorrect usage. I would need to do this. The car that James purchased last week met with an accident. Now I know which car I'm talking about. So it is an essential clause. So then, what do we do whenever we have that in essential clauses? What are the points we need to bear in mind? The use of a comma before or after the word that is virtually always incorrect. And now I'm using the word virtually because there can be very, very rare exceptions. Let's take an example to illustrate. The car that James purchased last week met with an accident. We just saw that we can't put the comma, the comma between car and that and the other comma, because this is not non-essential. It is because it's essential that we've used the word that, and the 2 commas are not allowed. So that comma is not allowed, and of course the other comma is not allowed. Just remember that. So normally commas will not precede or immediately follow the word that. Here again, it's following the word that, and that's not allowed. Gone. Now here you have a comma before and a comma after the word that. That's also not allowed. And the correct option would be the car that James purchased last week met with an accident. Now, the funny thing is, this above sentence can again be written without the word that. Like this: the car James purchased last week met with an accident. Now, what happens is you will get questions where they would have put a comma between car and James. In your mind, you've got to ask yourself, can I put the word that over there between them? Of course, I can say the car that. Now, if I put the word that, I would not use a comma, and therefore the use of a comma here also is wrong. Now, let me explain this with another example. Some students believe they have no aptitude for mathematics. Would you need a comma here? In your mind, you would think I can actually put the word that. Some students believe that. Sorry, I was indicating in the wrong places. Some students believe they have no aptitude for mathematics. Would you have put a comma there? No, because you would not have put a comma here. Because we cannot have a comma precede the word that. And therefore, there shouldn't be a comma there. This is the way you've got to think. No comma over there. Let's illustrate with a proper SAT kind of example. Learning to drive is an essential skill most people living in Atlanta must have because there is no public transport. Right. Who are the people who should have this? Most people living in Atlanta. Why? Because there's no public transport. So this is essential. The other way of looking at it is, would I be able to fit the word there, that over there? Yes. I can actually say learning to drive is an essential skill that most people living in Atlanta must have. If I had put the word that, I would not have put a comma after skill. For the same reason, here too, I should not put a comma after skill. In that case, A, the given one, is wrong because of that comma, and C repeats the same mistake. So A and C are out, and then you have the comma here in B and no comma in D. Well, if you don't have the first comma, you don't need the second comma either, so that's wrong, B's wrong, and D is the correct answer.